So here's the story. Once upon a time there was a king. And the king liked to listen to... Now, I don't want you to understand, I'm not dissing on James, okay? Once upon a time there was this king, and this king had to have music when he went to bed. And he would listen to the music when he went to bed. And his minstrels, who were playing the music, were required by his decree to stop playing the moment he fell asleep. Okay? This was his decree, and he was the king. His word was law. He was actually a pretty bad king because he woke up one night, as you kind of do when you're drifting off to sleep and you do that. You know, I do that. I mean, I'm sure everybody else does on occasion. He had drifted off to sleep, and then he woke back up and realized that he had kind of jumped back awake, and the guy was still playing. Oh, well, he can't have that because he has broken the decree of the king. So what did he do? He took this minstrel and had hot molten lead poured into his ears. Okay, well, we've deafened the guy and we've probably killed him too. Okay, so he has done this horrible thing. He has punished this minstrel for having done this. Now, as time wore on, the king died and was reincarnated, and he died and was reincarnated, and he learned a lesson each time until he finally reached a point where he had learned so many lessons that he was a great prophet and monk or whatever of this of Jainism, of this religion. And there he sat on the sands, and he was meditating, and he had achieved this little nirvana meditation, and all was good. He wasn't quite there yet. He needed that last little urge of whatever to get over into pure enlightenment. And there he sat, and a traveler came along, and the traveler said to him, "Can you tell me which way it is to the 7-Eleven?" Or whatever, wherever he was trying to find, the traveler was asking directions. The monk did not answer because he was in his state of meditation. And you don't disturb the monk when he's in his state of meditation. Okay? So the traveler became angry. What did the traveler do? He stepped over here and he found this plant. And this particular plant was called a spike plant because it had a root that was hard and shaped like a spike. And he dug 2 of them up and he hammered them into the monk's ears because he wasn't listening to him. Okay? And killed the monk, therefore sending him on to greater enlightenment and such. What went around came around. He sat there and allowed the guy to hammer this into his head. Okay? Not happening. I don't buy that. Okay? You can watch all the Jason Bourne flicks and shit you want. Nobody's going to sit there and let someone do this crap to them if they can stop it. Okay? Just not going to happen.
There are some pacifists who are extreme enough, like Gandhi, that might say that.
There are. But what did he accomplish?
He was transferred to a
Christians say Jesus did it. He was transferred. He's transported onto a higher existence. Okay? How was he transported onto a higher existence when it has turned around and come out that in his biography, in his own papers and such, that there were things about Gandhi that while they don't bother us in the least, they bother members of his own particular faith and members of other faiths. How could he have possibly gone on to enlightenment because he was breaking the rules?
I thought you meant your story. I didn't know you.
Oh, no, wait, no, but yeah, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Jesus. Okay? There are also people that say Jesus went kicking and screaming. Okay? Here's my theory on Jesus. Somebody, you asked me earlier about what I thought about, you know, there's actual proof that Jesus existed. Yeah, you can prove Jesus existed. He was a guy.
A guy, yeah.
Okay? He was a guy, just like any other guy, who happened to tell stories. He didn't have aluminum foil wear on his head, but he told stories. He saw that the emperor had no clothes. He could tell you something that sounded awfully philosophical. You know what? I was telling you earlier about my Facebook page. 365 merpisms. There's 2 or 3 of them that are real freaking gems. I'm here to tell you. Okay? I've been told by people, I want to put that on a bumper sticker. Okay, so it must be good. He did that. He went around. Do you think everything that fell out of that man's mouth was gospel? Hell no. It is now. Because somebody took it and turned it into a nice story. They wove a story around it. They made it a gospel, okay? And every religion out there has done that. Okay? You don't have any particular proof, period, about any religion. Yours, mine, theirs, ours, anyone's. You have only writing that you can trace back so far that was written by someone who you have no idea if it was a guy sitting there with his buddy saying, you know what, let's make a bet. If I write this shit down and I get people to believe it, then I get your 3 cows and a sheep. Right? Yes?
How many other messiahs were around at the same time Jesus was?
Exactly. How many of the messiahs were around at the same time?
Paul. There was.
Paul was
No, I mean there were. I mean, like all over the country. They were like all over the place.
John
Okay.
the Baptist, we thought was the
Yeah.
one.
Now let's look at that for a second. Let's
I'm sorry, there's one John the Baptist. How about Paul? And I don't know.
let's take
Paul
these.
was
Let's take these messiahs and apostles and this story and that story and this story and take all of them from over here, and what happens? They had the same stories this guy had, and it changes slightly, and I have another new hat. What am I, Heidi now or something? Okay. So, but it does.
And it's the same thing as when your child is 2 years old.
Okay, when your child's 2 years old.
And okay, there's a saying that I did do to my son, and I corrected it really quickly, because I said to him, "You play with it, it's going to fall off."
If you play with it, it's going to fall off. Okay?
And my daughter, who was a year older, she was 3,
Uh-huh.
came in from the kitchen one day with a butcher knife saying, "Didn't fall off yet, Mom, but he's playing with it again." Oh my God.
Uh-huh. But then you know what?
What I was saying to him
Uh-huh.
was for a purpose to get
Mhm.
him to do something, to exert a control over him.
And it became a gospel.
And it became a gospel.
And then some dudes in lab coats did some tests, and they came out with a paper that said if you play with it, you won't get prostate cancer.
There you go.
Yep.
There you go.
Yep.
There you go.
Now that's a gospel I can get behind.
Yeah,
Okay? I liked that gospel.
21 times a month.
21, that's all? 68 if a
Dr. Oz last
day. And 6 cups of coffee a day.
there you go.
But, however, you know, you just look at these all mesh together because these stories get told. Now, let's think about things for a second. There's this whole concept of the cradle of civilization, where we all came from. Now, whether you believe in evolution or not, there's basically only a couple of ways we could have ended up here. Well, actually, I suppose if you wanted to make them up, you can make up any kind of way we got here. But either we arrived through an evolutionary process from other little plankton and single-celled organisms and you know, tachyons bouncing off of frickin', you know, neutrons or whatever and creating this atom and, you know, and whatever. Or some guy named God, and there we are. Or the aliens came and put us here. I like to subscribe to that one, obviously.
Or God was a mad scientist. Who did that.
Or God was a mad scientist, or that, all of this is just a swarm and a drop of water underneath a microscope, and one of these days we're going to get flushed down the sink. Whatever, we came from somewhere. I happen to subscribe to the fact that we probably came from evolution. However, if I want to really make my brain hurt, I'll ask myself, okay, what was here before the Big Bang? And where did it come from?
Where did God come from?
Where did Petri dishes? Where did God from? Yes, where did God come from? So, when you get right down to it, every single God is presiding over a religion, or a set of gods presides over a religion. And the next thing you know, what have you got? Something that somebody made up. We created gods and the religions to explain that which we could not explain, because not a single one of us really and truly wants to fathom the concept of there never having been anything and then there having been something and existing at the same time and place as this and that, and it makes our brains hurt. We can't get it. So we have to have an explanation. So we make up an explanation. We tell it in stories, and therefore you have religion. So each and every religion is a fictional story in and of itself. And there is absolutely no possible way that you can prove that it isn't fiction. Now, let's jump over here for a second. There are things on this. I'm picking up a signal. Oh, there, that's better. Okay, as I was saying to you, faith and religion is a very personal thing. Now that I have insulted everyone in the room's religion and everyone outside of the room's religion, and I've caused a few people to get up and leave because I was boring them to death, okay, we have to think about, if you have a religious path in which you believe and it makes you feel good and nobody else is getting hurt, who gives a fuck?
Gotcha. Yeah, I do.
Why?
No, I don't care.
Why do you care? Because you're a bitch? So you are the queen of the bitch religion. Okay, there you go. But why does it matter?
The basic form of any religion, no matter which one it is the do unto others, harm none. It's the ethical, moral standard of behavior, and 99.9% of them are exactly alike.
Yes. So it doesn't really matter.
Absolutely none of it, whether it's
Except for the law of the land.
atheism or a doctrine or a spiritual path, regardless of what it is, none of it has power until you give it to it.
Exactly. So, yes.
I was trying to discuss that I just came out with my family about me being a pagan.
Uh-huh.
And I had an aunt that was just going off, and she was telling me about the Bible.
Uh-huh.
I was like, the Bible is a good book of morals. I can hand you a child's fairy book story with the same type of morals, and you can live off, Grimm's book of fairy tales and still live a good life.
Exactly. You can live off of a book of fairy tales. You can live off of a cookbook if you want. Okay? I'm going to make a reference here. Hopefully all of you are old enough to remember this. I know some of you out here are. It's a movie reference. It was a movie reference with a guy that was named after me, even though he was older than I am. His name was Peter Sellers. The movie was Being There. Has everybody seen Being There? Okay? If you haven't, basic synopsis is you've got this man who's simple. Does everybody know what I mean by simple? He's not the brightest guy on the block, but he knows what he knows. He's been raised in a very sheltered environment as a gardener for a wealthy individual. When the wealthy individual dies, he has no place to go. So he is pretty much put out on the street with his suit and his suitcase, and he doesn't know what to do. All he's ever known is that at a certain time of day he receives his lunch, and at another time of day he receives his dinner, and he gets up at a certain time of day and he gets breakfast, and he goes out and he works in the garden, and he goes and he does this, and there's a schedule that he keeps, and he does each of these things in the garden, and he knows that when the seasons do this, this causes this to happen, and these things grow, and these are this, you put this on here. What happens is he is put out into the world and doesn't know what to do. So he's walking along, he's looking for someone to make him lunch, actually, because they kick him out just before lunch. He ends up accidentally getting hit by, it was Shirley MacLaine, wasn't it, that played the part? Accidentally backs into him or something like that. So he's not really hurt, but she decides that, you know, she's wealthy, she's like a senator's wife or something. She needs to take him home, and they take care of him, and they invite him to stay at the house. And he ends up saying things. People were talking to him, and he will relate these things to what he knows. He knows the garden. He knows what makes it grow. He knows this and that and the other thing. So they say something to him, and he says, well, sunlight makes the garden grow. Well, you know, that's a big duh for anybody who grows something. But in the proper setting, sunlight makes the garden grow is really freaking profound. So he's talking about economics. And so the guy's like, I see what you're saying. If we open up this sector and the economy will grow and da 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 da. You're freaking brilliant, you know. And suddenly this guy becomes almost like this messiah for the economics and politics and such, and he advises a president. It's almost like, it's like Forrest Gump before Forrest Gump ever was, you know, there, okay? At the end of the movie, have you not seen the movie? Okay, at the end of the movie, one of the cute little things that they do with it is that one of the man who was married to the woman who hit him, he ends up dying. So he has to go to this funeral. He goes to the funeral and he's looking around, and everybody's been looking to him for all this advice, and he's telling them, if you put poop on a garden, it grows. If when it rains, it pours, and just common stuff. And they're taking it all as just, oh, he's just the greatest mind there ever was. And as they're having the funeral, he walks away, and he's looking around, and there's a lake, and you see him step out, and you think he's just at the edge of the lake, and you think, oh, okay, he's just kind of wading around at the edge of this lake. And he looks, and he's got his umbrella, and he leans over and he sticks the umbrella, and he goes all the way down. He pulls it back up, and he continues to walk across the lake. He's walking across water because he doesn't know he can't. Okay? It's a metaphorical ending. It's just thrown out there as a religious metaphor, but it was not meant to say, okay, you all need to go be Christians. It was meant to say, if you give something power, if you feed it, if you're willing to believe it, you can make it as real as you want it to be. So, we come back around full circle, technically. Where am I at? Have I run over time? Am I under time? Where am I? I still got 22 minutes? Okay. Did you have to leave? Okay, well, I was fixing to just basically come back around full circle anyway and say, very simply, that it doesn't matter if it's fiction or not. If you really and truly want to base a religion on the Rowan Gant investigations, knock yourself out. But if you go out and start killing people, don't send them to my doorstep.
They're an Indian chief.
I mean, is it an Indian chief or is it? Oh! So, this is freaky. So, why you shouldn't base a religion upon a fictional work then becomes exactly the reason that you should base a religion upon a fictional work. Because everyone, no matter who you are, I don't care if you claim to be an atheist, you have to have something to believe in. If you claim you're an atheist, you're believing in nothing. You are believing in something by believing in nothing. Okay? Do what? And you have to work hard at it. Yes, so you create your own reality. You create your own happiness out of this.